if I maximize towards making your life easier, I'm going to produce the wrong products. If your life becomes easier as a natural outcome of what I'm doing, then I know I'm doing it right.
All right, guys, we have another AI driven podcast right now. As a lot of you guys know, I've been diving in so deep on AI, been waking up at 4 a.m. every day and dedicating 3 to 3.5 hours a day to learn how to properly use AI, not just to use it, right? So it's like a glorified Google, but to actually implement it and be more effective and more efficient in less time. So I'm getting there. I'm doing so much more than I've ever done before. The last step is going to be like true integration and implementation and everything so that it just happens. So that's what my passion is right now, and I'm really digging it. So Eric Post owns Huzi AI, and he's very specific. He used to be a realtor. He owned a mortgage company. He's done everything in our industry that we do right now, and he's figured out a way to do all of these things that I am so passionate about into his business, which is AI. So we're going to talk all about that today, but the bigger, broader conversation is all about AI and how to use it, right? From beginning steps to even a little bit more advanced steps. So I hope you guys love this show as much as I did and check out Eric. All right, here he is, Eric Post from Huzi AI. Thanks for coming on, man.
Good morning, sir. Good to talk to you. Let's get going.
All right, so this is interesting. I'm in Southern California and I'm wearing a hoodie. You're in Oregon and you're wearing a short sleeve shirt.
We're not made of sugar around here. It rains all the time, so we gotta like get out in the elements a little bit. I had my hoodie on a minute ago, but it's hot in here, man. It's actually sunshine, so I need the vitamin D, baby, on my skin.
All right. So dude, listen, this is a mortgage podcast, and pretty much everybody I've had on has been a mortgage originator. Because we walk through like their journey and try and relate to a lot of the loan officers that are listening and how to get them to be better. But what I've discovered here, because as you know, I've been diving in deep on AI, and for those of you listening that don't know, it's been about 50 days now, maybe. I decided I'm going for it. I'm going all in. I'm gonna do an AI sprint, which meant I'm gonna start waking up at 4 a.m., which I have been pretty much every day, except for a little bit on weekends. And I'm dedicating 3 to 3.5 hours a day strictly to AI. And I've been learning so much and expanding my mind because the capabilities, the just imagine, like the phrase just imagine has become this whole new thing in my life because just imagine is literally as big as you want. Your imagination can go wild, and I feel that it's all possible. So with that said, that's why I wanted you to come on here because you're not only, well beyond where I'm at in AI, but you're also in our space. And I think the importance of this is that you can help loan officers and realtors grow their business and usher them into the new world. Because the reality is, doesn't matter how good you are at doing loans. I mean, it still matters, right? Like you have to know, but if you can't manage your business properly, you're going to fall behind, and being good at loans won't matter anymore.
Mhm,
you know? So
mhm.
with that said, thanks for coming on. I guess first, and I just want to get right into it if you don't mind, but
That's
tell
good.
us who you are personally and professionally, and tell us about Whozy. And then I just want to drill you with a whole bunch of questions.
You bet. So thank you for the industry has been something I've been really proud to be a part of for 23 and a half years, and I started off as an agent, then started my first brokerage. I had a great business partner who unfortunately recently passed away, but we were great business partners for 17 years. And we owned multiple real estate brokerages, multiple mortgage companies. We started a mortgage company, bought a mortgage company, combined them together, sold them off, land development, home building, property management, you
Okay,
name
I,
it.
I had no idea that you were actually in the mortgage business. I didn't
Yeah,
realize that.
yeah. So I had 26, originators at the time and, in a decent sized operation and sold that off. And so I do understand I haven't been an originator myself, but I have recruited, trained, managed, and ran. So I do have some knowledge of the space. And so the reason why I ended up wanting to start this company, Huzi, is simply because I knew the industry needed a translator. of this technology. And so with the same obsession, you've been doing it, and this isn't a flex on anything, but I've been doing this for 3 years now, 12 to 14 to 15 hours a day for 3 straight years, 6, 7 days a week. So my mind has been blown over the last few years about how I think and what's capable, what's possible. And I've come to realize that the biggest threat to this industry is actually the AI powered consumer. It's not Zillow with AI. It's not your competitor with AI. It's the alternatives that consumers are now having conversations without their mortgage professional, their real estate professional, in a private conversation with AI before they even come to you for the things they would have normally come to you. So we're downstream in a different way than we were when the internet was a place of things.
That's an interesting concept there. I don't think I've heard anybody say that. So
Mhm.
tell me why you think that that's our biggest threat.
If you look at we're in a knowledge-based service industry, and this industry has propped itself up on being knowledge workers. Like, we wanted for a borrower to leave our office saying, "Oh my god, Dino really knew a lot. He knew a lot about FHA, he knew a lot about VA, really knew about reverse mortgages, he could really navigate this thing." Knowledge is now cheap, it's now the commodity, and knowledge is now the table stakes for every knowledge-based service industry. I'm taking medical, financial, real estate, mortgage, legal, you name it, right?
Yeah.
So my lawyer called me the other day and said, "Bro, I'm so tired of all my clients, fact checking me with ChatGPT. I've read the contract and they read through ChatGPT and give me some feedback." And it's happening in all these knowledge-based service industries, including medical. And so we need to like fully lean into that and understand that the consumer here is changing their behavior very, very quickly. And there's stats to show that. There's, you know, um, facts to show that. And so this isn't a guess anymore. And so I think as an industry, we got to skate to where the puck is going, and we can't keep thinking this is the old game.
Have you read that book, Who Moved the Cheese?
I've read, dude. The only reason why I know anything about anything is because I'm a fan of reading other people's wisdom. So yeah, yeah, I've read that book for sure. And frankly, when you really like think about it, we were on a call the other day, man. And I said that this is an analog renaissance. This is this opportunity to get back to humanity because our rush to do things more effectively and efficiently, right? So we take a process and we AI power it. It used to take an hour, now it takes 5 minutes. It's still get everybody. So that's a zero sum game. And people are playing a zero sum game. I don't think the industry realizes that. The whole industry is maximizing towards efficiency, and that's a zero sum game. It can only get to instant and it can only get to free. And then what? Right.
Do you think that there's going to be a lot less people doing this for a living because of all the changes happening?
I think in every industry that the best is safer as long as we'll have a career, for sure. Everything below the best is uncertain to me, honestly. I
Yeah.
think mediocre or below is at risk, to be honest with you, because we have a good enough answer. Your customers have a good enough answer in ChatGPT 5,
Mhm.
5.2 release say, or Gemini 3. They have a good enough answer. You go and ask anything about a loan, it's gonna give pretty good quality information. So the good enough and below, I think, is at peril, just to be honest, you know?
Are you into golf at all?
Mhm.
A while back, a long time ago, Tiger Woods was probably the most dominant force, in golf, right? And he changed his swing when he was at the top of his game and started losing. And I was like, why is he changing his swing? Like nobody can beat him. But he did it. And then what happened after he finally perfected that swing, he started hitting the ball even further. And right now I kind of feel like we have to all start changing our swing before it's too late. And then there's no catching up. So that's kind of what I feel like that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And it sucks because I could be making a lot more money if I was just sticking to what I know and what I do, but I'm spending a lot of money and a lot of time, and I'm changing my swing because I think I'll be able to hit the ball a little bit further when it's all
Mhm.
done.
What I
So,
what I see in you, as an observer, and just getting to know you a little bit, is that you're betting on yourself. So when the future is hard to determine and a little bit blurry, and our future has never been more difficult to predict than it is right now, the best thing you can do is bet on yourself, you know? And that's why I think personal development needs to be at the forefront of everyone's like game. You can't build a business bigger than you can build yourself, you
totally.
know? So that's great, man.
What one of the things I'll say to you guys right now, just the words of hope, I guess. Whatever I was trying to do a year ago in technology that I struggled putting together, or it cost me a fortune and still didn't even work the way I wanted it to, is now so much easier to do that I could even do some of it myself. Before I needed to have an entire team. So I guess where I'm going with it is don't ever feel like it's too late because it's not. And it's just getting easier and easier, but you got to at some point dive in and do it, right? Like it's that old saying, right? I wish I had planted the tree 50 years ago so I could have this big mature tree. Well, when was the best time to plant it? Anytime before right this second. When's the next best time? Right this second,
Right
right now.
now.
Do it,
Exactly. Yeah.
So okay, so Huzi, let's just get right into Huzi. What is and I love the name, by the way. I don't know why, but it's just what does it mean?
So as naming the company, there's a few I love to have Easter eggs and things that I build. And so I love building things. So I was building this company. First of all, if I was going to be in artificial intelligence, I wanted it to be grounded in some sort of natural wisdom. I wanted to have like my feet in the bare grass while I'm doing all this AI stuff, right? And so, like, for instance, the name Huzi actually in some, ancient dialects means like the courageous one and brave one and sort of thing, kind of like venturing out. I definitely wanted the H alliterations like Hey Huzi or Huzi Holmes, being in the space. I wanted that H short, sweet. In other cultures, actually Huzi means the bearded one, which I've had a beard for a while, so that's kind of fun. Um, and it was available. And then, I did also the who, like the owl. So like the little logo for the owl wings and the eyes to
That's
give
what
kind
it
of
is. Okay.
just a little subtle nod towards wisdom, like real wisdom,
Yeah.
right? So the company, yeah, we use AI, but really we're an empowerment company. We just use leverage, and AI is a leverage point. So I'm not pro AI. I'm pro leverage. I'm pro giving a consumer more consistent, transparent, efficient, memorable experience. You can just
Yeah.
do that with AI in different ways now. We used to have to choose between either scale or personalization, and you don't have
Yeah.
to choose anymore,
Yeah.
which is fun.
Agreed.
So that's what
Agreed.
we're focusing on is that element of it right there.
Okay, so tell us, what does it do?
Um,
And I know, from what you've told me earlier, it's cross-platform, I or a cross whatever, when I say platform, realtor, lender, even title rep. Are there any other industry, specific ones that you guys cover?
it is because the way I built this whole thing, man, because again, AI is a generative technology, yet people are building software like it's still software and it's not a faster horse. AI is not, you don't need to bake in software and just sprinkle AI on your existing software and think that that's a natural progression of things. It's like when we designed the car and the first versions of the car looked just like a buggy, but they took the horse and put in a motor. And the wheels were small up front, had big wheels in the back. It looked like a buggy just without a horse on it anymore. That's we people generally evolve through things. Um, so I'm kind of skipping that step a little bit and realizing that actually there's no reason to think about software like it used to be. And so, since AI is a generative technology, what I wanted to do is, in a way, built in the most powerful large language models, the most powerful image generation models, and the most powerful video generations models into one flexible interface. So, no matter what you needed to get done, no matter what industry you needed, you had all those ingredients there to perform whatever task you can possibly imagine. Okay. So, I perfected that and we have that down. The problem with that is that most people's AI fluency isn't high enough yet to know what to do with something that powerful. Right. So, built this thing we use internally. I'm solving problems with the system, by the way, Dino, that is like big companies have spent a decade on. I'm solving them in a couple of weeks, sort of thing. It's pure magic because I'm highly leveraged that way. So I can solve problems and get to problems in ways that most people can't. But that's just one version of it. The next version of it is, well, how do
So
we get
so real
somebody?
quick, I'm gonna pause right there just because I know somebody's listening and they're like, "What the heck did he just say?" And I'll break it down into simple language. Is as you guys all know, right? There's ChatGPT, but Google has their own called Gemini, and Elon Musk has another one. There's all these different language models, but we'll just call them different AIs, right? For those of you that aren't as in the know of how it all works. And in my book, th- all of them are 100% better than anything I could ever come up with on my own. So if you want to simplify your life, you could just pick one,
Mhm.
either ChatGPT or Gemini, right? And call it a day. And you guys are going to be better off than you've ever been before. But when you really start digging in, and what Eric's talking about is he uses all of them at one time through his platform versus everybody else gets frustrated because you put all this time into ChatGPT, and then all of a sudden, just recently Gemini announced that their new upgrade came out. It's better than ChatGPT. So you know it's kind of nice because Eric's platform covers all of them at one time. You just function out of one, which is Huzi.
I think it's a great way to put it down because it's exhausting to try and keep up with this. And who needs more username and passwords? And who needs to like constantly wake up every morning and research the best tools so you can give your clients the best things? That's what a third party should do. You
Yeah,
know,
and how much are you spending on all of them, individually?
yeah, yeah. I have a subscription to everything, so it does get expensive. Uh, but the other part of this actually is almost like there needs to be a little fork in the road as well. So either a user needs to become an outstanding like prompt engineer or an outstanding, at working with an AI system that's a generalist like a ChatGPT, or they need to use an industry specific platform that does some of the heavy lifting on prompt engineering and knows what use cases that you need. So then you don't have to be the AI expert. You just have to be the expert at your job and use the AI that's built for you. But there should be a choice between the two because it would be like, hiring somebody out of Fiverr to build your house. It wouldn't go so well. You're using a generalist that might do some things. If you don't know enough, it's going to get you in trouble. They're actually finding statistically that if you're not an expert at your craft and using ChatGPT or a generalized model, your actually productivity and your efficiency actually goes down because the AI takes you down these rabbit holes and you don't know any better because you're not the expert and the AI is. So it's really an important thing to like, I don't call it human in the loop, I call it expert in the loop. So you gotta be the expert in the loop to collaborate with AI. And we just teach the approach to AI just dramatically different than most people talk about it, you know? Um, most people are trying to look for a tool that they could delegate to, and I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, if you got the most powerful, like, PhD level thing, like, what are you doing?" Like, you invert it a little bit and collaborate with it to get better at your job along the way instead of just delegating it just as an amplifier of what you already are.
And I'm gonna do my best as we go, just because I'm so in the thick of it and I'm still at that early stage. But crazy enough, in a few short months, I'm way better than
It's
the
awesome,
average
man.
person.
It's awesome.
So I'm gonna do my best to also translate for a lot of you guys. But I think what he's saying there is you don't just sit there and dictate what you want and have it do it because it can do all that. But what I've really discovered through this process is that my critical thinking has become 10 times better than it was before because I don't just accept what it says anymore. I debate with it. I spar with it. And I here's what I did. I actually uploaded my personality tests, like the disc profile and a couple other ones that I had taken, and I uploaded it and it said, great. I've locked all that in. I know exactly, the way to respond. And I said, well, I go, there's a couple things before you lock everything in. I said, I want you to know what my love languages are too, so you can respond to me properly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I need you to know how to talk to me so I can understand, not to make me feel good, but so I can understand, because that's how my mind works. But I said, now you also know my weak spots, and I want you to have my back so that we don't skip over things that I should be doing or I should be communicating properly. And I was like, you know what? That's brilliant because we always play on our strengths, but when we suck at something, we just suck at it. But now I don't have to suck at it. I can I can have this, machine actually having my back. But none of that would have come about if I didn't spar with it, meaning don't just accept whatever it says. Ask it why. Ask it to explain it to you a little better. And then it's like your business, it's your life, it's your everything. Control it. If you're not 100% satisfied with it, keep propping to it, like keep probing to it and figure out the magic that can come about when you actually do that. So at the end of the day, don't just say, write a post for me on social media. Give it good instructions and take a minute to do that. And then when it comes back, don't just read the first couple sentences and be like, "Oh, it's gold. It's better than I ever would have done." Read the whole thing and then go back and forth a couple times, and you're going to find yourself really fine tuning it. And then it just gets easier and easier and easier because it starts to learn what it is that you like and your personality. And then it becomes gold. But put that time in. That's I put so many hours in to having it learn who I am, and I created my own clone finally, and now it knows everything. Every once in a while, like my biggest mentor was my dad, and every once in a while, and by the way, everybody called my dad Mr. Pete, and says this is something Mr. Pete would be proud of. Like it knows when it needs to compliment me because that's also my love language. Anyways, I'll keep going, but for everybody listening, uh, you know, Eric is super advanced after 3 years, and it's crazy to think that somebody in an industry of 3 years is one of the most advanced people, and it's only been 3 years.
That
But
wild.
this is all new, guys. You still have a chance to be an expert if you want to.
The There's a couple things, if you don't mind me pointing out, there's a couple things you said. So first of all, I love because you're using it the way we think is the best. Who is as a thought partner, as a collaboration partner. It's not a delegation machine. And then secondarily, understanding that it's not a truth machine. It's a pattern machine. It's not grounded in truth. It's not grounded in a point of view. It's not grounded. It doesn't have taste. The human has taste. The human has a point of view. The human has real world experience. And so if you ask ChatGPT, ChatGPT, fill in the blank for me. The cow jumped over it would say moon. It's not true. It's just something that we say.
Yeah, yeah.
So because it's grounded, if we can understand that, just that little thing, but if you were using an AI, let's say that was a rancher or a farming, AI, it might say the cow jumped over the fence or the puddle because it's grounded in the truth of the job of what it's supposed to be thinking about. So we have to understand that these machines are not grounded in the truth, they're grounded in pattern. And the best people that are working with it are not the best prompt engineers, that people have heard that term. They're actually the best context creators. So AI works best on context, not pleasantries. It responds to clarity, not please and thank you. Right. And so we do these things, we make it very human when it's actually making the conversation more clunky. It wants clarity and context, not pleasantries.
Yeah. You nailed it with clarity. And I guess that's what I was trying to say earlier too, is I've become a much better communicator
Me too.
because I really think through how I need to communicate what I'm trying to get across. Because the more crystal clear you are, the better job it will do. And I'll give an example. For those of you, some of you guys know what vibe coding is, and vibe coding is probably the coolest thing I think I've ever done in my life because it's something that I could never have even dreamt about doing, and I would have had to pay somebody thousands and thousands of dollars to do this. And I created a platform, and it's even pretty. Like I did it, but I what I learned is that I was building the airplane while I was flying, which is just the wrong way to do it. So as pretty as it is, and even though it has everything I want, you can't necessarily go back and build the foundation after you build the wall. So I scraped the whole thing. I went back and I'm actually taking even longer now to build the foundation of this ethos operating system that I'm putting together. And it's basically everything in my mind because I've dreamt up ethos, right? Like I know exactly what it looks like, but it's in my brain. It's not everywhere else. So now I'm building it out in a way where it's all foundational. And chat is, both my attorney, my sparring partner, my developer, my architect, all of these things, but I'm still controlling it. Uh, and that's the key you guys all have to remember is you are in control. Anyways, Vibe coding is probably the coolest thing I've ever
I I
done or
I
seen
vibe
in my
coded till
work.
2 o'clock, and I started again at 7 this morning, working on projects. So, to me, it's been so fun because I'm working with products. So before, even just a couple of years ago, I was doing a little diagram like this where I was putting together a PowerPoint trying to explain this feature or thing in my head, and then the engineering team would try to figure it out. Now I just build a prototype. I just build a prototype in the day and give it to them the next day. We walk through it, and it's great. But your lived experience there of what happened in vibe coding illustrates my point that AI is an amplifier of what you already are. So you're an idea creator, but you're not a website or app builder. So it can help spawn up ideas, but it can't code to the ability that you don't understand. And so I really want people to understand that. So if you're a mediocre marketer, just because you got access to Nano Banana Pro, and VO3 and Google Gemini 3 or ChatGPT Sora 2 or whatever, all that means is that you can produce a lot more mediocre marketing at scale is all it means. It doesn't make you a better marketer. So you have to have the marketing taste and point of view to be a better marketer. And you can use AI to develop those, but I just want to point that out that like people say, oh, graphic designers are cooked or, the filmmakers are cooked. No, it doesn't have a point of view. It just makes a whole bunch of stuff, whatever you ask it. If you ask it to make crappy stuff, it'll make crappy stuff. A lot of it.
Yeah, it's just like a good loan officer is gonna still be a better loan officer with this. Crappy loan officer's gonna be a better crappy loan officer. There's still be a crappy loan officer in comparison to the guy that's good.
And because you made a comment to it before, you can be technically proficient and totally broke in this business. Right? And so it's not about being technically proficient, it's about being the best known. You don't just have to be the best, you have to be the best known to get the most amount of leads. And now when we have to move from the knowledge worker to the wisdom worker, it's no longer, "Oh, Dino knows everything." Now it's Dino really understands us is the emotion that we wanna have our customers. "Oh, Dino gets us." Right? Like, you don't want, like, Dino knows everything about loans. Yeah, that's the table stakes because they also can know everything about loans if they ask GPT-5 enough questions. So, Dino gets us. He's my guide. He's my wisdom worker through this navigation of all this knowledge. He knows us the best, and he can help us navigate this. That's why we're using Dino, right? And that's what every knowledge-based service industry has to get to is that relationship with the AI-powered consumer.
I'll use Mortgage Coach for a second. It I don't even know what they charge right now because I'm grandfathered in for so long, but
Shout out
I
Dave.
pay like $90 a month. I think it's like 150 now. A loan officer that presents different options to his clients via email in writing
Mhm.
it's a viable option and maybe it even works. But my guess is that they're not $100 million producers. Pretty much every $100 million producer uses Mortgage Coach. Why? Because it's a presentation layer to their client that makes them understand it better, and it also elevates the loan officer's game as to who they are and why they should be using them as opposed to some other random loan officer that just emails you a couple options. Same kind of thing. Right now, you have to pick your tools and start using them. And I loved what you just said because your clients, if you do this properly, will think he gets me. I did an interview just the other day. Um, I mean, that's all I do every day, but this particular one was moving forward, and she wanted to see the contract. So what I did is I actually took our entire interview to the transcript and video, and I dropped it into chat. And I said, "Hey, I need to respond back now and send her the contract. But can you please, review this, write up an email for me, and it already knows there's a couple key things that I've told it. I said, I want you to be inspirational like Tony Robbins, and I want you to be, tactful like Phil Jones with exactly what to say on all my writing, right?
Right.
And sure enough, man, I was like, okay, I'm hitting send. This is great.
So what I wanna dude, this is so great to hear you talk about this. So because a lot of people in this industry, like, teach and talk about, "How do I get AI to sound like me? I want it to write like me." And I'm always like, "Well, unless you're the top producing loan officer or realtor, why don't you want it to be more effective?" Right?
Yeah.
Let's write things to be more effective, not just like you, because that's such an ego play. Like, there's a big ego thing in the business, no judgment, just it's just the way it is. So all these trainers are out there saying, "I can teach you how to get your ChatGPT to sound like you." I'm like, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever wanted to do. I want it to sound amazing," you know? It not be the mask. So, the other peril here is that people are, like, writing polished pieces that they themselves don't understand, and there's prompting and pasting to LinkedIn or whatever. You can't fake thought leadership, first of all, you know? So, if you're delegating thought leadership to ChatGPT, you're gonna be exposed pretty quickly by your consumers. So don't be tempted to use it like the diet pill like that. But, making sure that it's writing effectively is the game, not writing like me as an example. Yeah.
Yeah, though, so that's where I've never been a good writer, but I'm writing amazing right now. But a big piece of when I review what it's written for me, first of all, it starts with what I ask it to do.
Mhm.
And I've spent countless hours now letting it know who I am and what's important to me, not just in business, but even personally, ethically. Who am I? What I value. And, you know, with that said, it now has that tone, and I still reread it every time because I usually my usual is shorten it up, make it a little bit easier, make it, and then what it turns into is 10x better than what I would have written, but definitely not something some PhD would have written that nobody actually ends up reading anyway. you know, Uh, people like to read, and I think just in general, right? I mean, I've heard somebody say, and I still don't do it, but it's fifth doing a fifth grade level, like maybe high school, you know. But yeah, if one of the things I was watching about training my clone, it said to upload several emails that I've written. I was like, "Hell no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna give it a bad a bad head
That's
start."
what I'm talking about. Yeah. Good for you. Good for you.
All right, so dude, let's go back to Huzi.
Yeah.
We definitely drifted. And if really you don't know, that's something AI does all the time. It drifts, but only because we let it drift, right? Just like Eric and I just drifted. But I want to get back to Huzi, and the reason why is because I do think it's a pretty killer, piece of software that you built, or I don't know, what do you call this? These is it software or is it an app or is it?
That's the thing. It's all everything that we're building is new, and it's a different way of thinking about it. And so what I had been doing before was building out this fully comprehensive ecosystem. It's like your one-stop full AI tech stack in one place, right? It's a noisy world though, Dino, and it's hard to describe. So like some of the people I'm working with, some brokerages and mortgage company owners and whatnot, it's taken a year for them to really kind of pick up their AI fluency enough to even have a conversation around how to apply these things into their workflows and whatnot. So I was looking at like the music industry the other day and realized, oh, bands don't even release albums anymore. The world's so noisy.
Yeah.
Like they're not even releasing an album because there's not enough space for people to download a full album and pay attention to the full album. Everyone just releases singles. And so I kind of recognize this, and so I'm kind of changing my strategy. I'm gonna release components of the ecosystem in these singles of sorts,
I think
right?
it's excellent.
So
It's
we're
it's so true. And, even like, I was talking about my ethos operating system, and here we are drifting again, but, my ethos operating system, I'm trying to build it all out in singles. I'm calling them modules that they each work independently, but they work together for the better good, right? But they could work independently, and they all have their primary function. So with that said, let's not drift. I want to go back to Huzi. And the reason why is because everybody listening right now, if you're in the real estate or mortgage space, this can be something that can level you up big time. And does it just do everything for you? No, you're gonna have to do a little bit of work, but it'll make your life a lot easier. And you don't have to go out and learn by waking up at 4 a.m. and putting in 3 hours, 3.5 hours a day like I did. I'm like that, but I know a lot of people just won't, and they don't have enough time in their day to
yeah.
actually dedicate to learning something. So this could be a great way for somebody. And as far as like the cost goes, we were going over that before we jumped on. I was like, wow, that's actually cheap.
Mhm.
So Huzi AI, right? Check it out. I'm gonna have it in my show notes for everybody as well. But let's go mortgage since that's
Yeah.
the majority of the listeners. How can a mortgage loan originator use Huzi, and how can it better their entire day? How can it shave hours off of their day and make them more effective and more efficient?
So I'm going to answer this question assuming that the loan officer has their business systematized in some way. Because it's really hard to answer this question unless they know what they're trying to accomplish. So when I sit down, somebody in front of the platform, I start showing them around. I can see instantly the people that are on a mission that know clearly what they want to do. They're always like, "Oh, thank God! I can do this much faster now and easier now." And oh, this is I've always wanted to do it, and now I can do it in this way. And they're very clear about it. Their answers to the questions aren't like, "What should I do or what can I do?" It's like, "Oh, how quickly can I get to this now?" Sort of, because they're very clear. The other half is like, "Well, tell me what this thing can do for me." And that's just the wrong way to look at anything because that's just, well, it can do everything. So what do you need done? So really like leaning into Pareto's principle of the 80-20 or the 90-10, like really get down to what are those top 10% or 20% of the activities and then figure out how AI can augment those. Not I believe in augmentation more than automation currently. My current slogan right now on a personal website is that to optimize a relationship is to end it. And we're in a relationship business.
You
This
know,
is a
actually, the other day when we were talking, you said that, and I wrote it down, and I told ChatGPT to remember that and help me use it at some point. I said because it's good. I love that, and we are still in a relationship based business. I
In fact, we
there is
have to be more now, by
more
the way.
so. So, uh, and again, and sit through this with me because I already told you, but I'll tell everybody else. Um, I've been blogging lately, and I've been trying to blog a little bit more about kind of what my experience has been. And I'm sure most of not all of you, but you know, I'm a Christian guy that has a strong faith, and it's really important to me. Um, and my wife thinks this is the devil. She
Mhm.
never listens to my show, so I won't matter here. But she thinks AI is the devil. And she was really against me promoting it with my kids and trying to teach them how to use it. And I basically told my kids, I don't care how old you are, you have the ability to create anything you want to create right now. You can go for it. And I wanted to just, like, open their mind up and let them be the kids that they can be, because this is the time where their imagination can be the most beneficial thing in the world to them, right? They don't being a dreamer right now is absolutely awesome. So, in my blogs, and it was a three-part series, but it was, what I've learned within the machine, right? It is a lot of it. And then after my first 30 days, what I actually said was, I now believe this is more on the God side than the devil side. Why? Because God's true intention for us, it's one of his commandments is to love each other and you know freely have community with people like in the old days, and not be so hung up on all our devices and on all our stuff that we have to do. And busy is the root of all evil, is one of the roots. Everybody says money, but I think busyness is a bigger root of evil. So now, all these hours later, I believe this is going to buy us back our time, because we can do all of these things now in record time, and we can automate things, and as time goes on, even more and more and more things will get automated, so that in my eyes, I've been a 12-hour a day guy forever. So that's like what a full day is for me. When life's getting good, I'm between 8 and 10, or when the rates are super high and I don't have a lot to do. But but for the first time ever, I think, and I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there, I'm gonna be able to be as efficient as I was in 12 hours in 6 to 8. That's the goal. Or in an 8-hour span, can I accomplish 20 hours worth of work?
Mhm.
I think so.
That's the yes.
That's a total
That's an
yes,
easy
right?
yes.
Yeah.
I used to teach classes, this last year, and I'd start off the conversation with saying, "All right, do we have more or less technology than we did 20 years ago?" Leading question. I was like, "Way more." I'm like, "All right, do you work more or less than you did 20 years ago?" I was like, "We also work more or less." So there hasn't been a correlation between better technology and lowering our workloads because we find other shit to do,
Yeah,
right? And
100%.
so I keep asking the now what question because with automation and augmentation, we are doing things a lot less time that we did before. So we have to reassess what our value is in these relationships. Our value isn't doing that work now that can be done by the computer in 20 minutes. It used to take us 2 hours. So then what do you do with the other hour and 40 minutes? And that's the part that people stumble on the most. Because this whole thing, as far as I see it, is not a technology revolution. It's a creativity revolution. I saw you light up talking about how creative you can be and things you could do now that you didn't do. It's an empowering feeling to have that sort of leverage. And really, we're talking about harnessing cognitive labor is what we're doing. We're harnessing intelligence, right? And a smarter organization or a smarter person outperforms one that has a lower intelligence. Just in any game, in any sport, in any country, in any politics, anything, that's how it is. So I actually view this also as a godlike thing because throughout history, every single religion always put together all knowing and all loving in one concept. Like, just intuitively know that the isms, racism, sexism, bigotry, hate, that comes from a lack of education, not too much intelligence. The wisest elders in every village were always the most peaceful, right? And the one you're still in your connectedness of things. So there's a certain benevolence and grace that comes with intelligence. So
The kung fu master always said, "Avoid the fight."
avoid because it was
Yeah.
wise and intelligent. And so people have these like fun things of the Terminator's coming. And frankly, you guys, to be honest with you, why I got in this industry, because I was nervous. I didn't understand it. And I thought, oh, if I don't understand it, it's the biggest thing that's ever going to happen in my lifetime. Let me just go ahead and jump in and be obsessive like I have been. So I was like fearful at first, but now the more I understand what it is and what it isn't, the capabilities and the, you know, I can't control society, but I control what I think about society, and I tend to be a pragmatic optimist in general, so,
Yeah. Yeah, me too. All right, at my peak, my best year was 156,000,000.
yeah.
Did over 100,000,000, several times. I had a team, a smaller team compared to some people. There was personal processor, a personal, assistant for emails and calendaring and all that, and I had a high level LOA that pretty much did everything else for me. In an environment like that, and I'm not producing now, but let's just say I was producing, so my level. I use Mortgage Coach and everything. I tried to use technology on as much stuff as I can. I had a great presentation layer. I was excellent at talking to clients and creating relationships. I had a killer back end system, that we call always our always present program, where we're always staying in touch with our clients. I got more referrals than anybody I ever known, because I was purposeful with it, and that was me. That was me as an originator. If I was originating right now and you were pitching me, how would you pitch me as a, because I know you said depends on what you're doing and what level you're at, but pitch me, right? Highest level mortgage originator right now. How are you going to make my life easier and more effective and more efficient?
I'm gonna stay away completely from the first one because that's the easy thing that's actually your customers don't pay you more or refer you more if your life is easier, to be honest with you, just to have a flat discussion. They do pay for a better customer experience. They pay for a more memorable experience. They pay for a more transparent, efficient, consistent experience. They don't pay more if your life is easier. So my focus is not on making the lives easier of the loan officer. Just be completely honest, makes sense. If I did that, then I'm just selling another tool and I'm gonna get low adoption. It's not gonna really work and have high churn because that's not what the whole game about. The game is about not how fast can we do something for a client, but how much time can we keep them in delight,
So I agree with what you said. I'll counter it just for a minute because
Yep.
I'm like that. Um,
which I love, by the way. So please do. I love that.
I it'll still make my life easier because I won't have to manage as many moving parts in order for this production to come together in the way that it came together every single day for me. So I do think it'll still make my life easier, but I like where you're going with it. So let's keep
When I
going.
That's actually a really good business lesson here because if I maximize towards making your life easier, I'm gonna produce the wrong products. If your life becomes easier as a natural outcome of what I'm doing, then I know I'm doing it right.
Yeah, 100%.
So thank you for peeling that onion layer back a little bit. You mentioned Tony Robbins a minute ago, so I'm gonna tell this story. I wanna answer your question, but I've been all the Tony stuff. I've been to his private island in Fiji a couple times with him and his team. We've worked on things together, and he did a drill with me one time about understanding what business that I am in, okay? This is when I had the brokerage, real estate brokerage, a mortgage company. Done that?
Me
Done
too.
that drill? Okay. So, it took me 3.5 days to really get through it with him, and I kept coming back with these bullshit answers like, "Oh, we're in the, the financial literacy business," and, "Oh, we're in the, real estate education business," and all this stuff. He's like, "No, no, 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 no." Finally, what I got down to it as a brokerage owner, he said, "Go talk to Keith Cunningham." Keith Cunningham's this business dude, and he had bought these chain of car washes, and he tripled the business in the next year. And I said, "Well, how'd you do that?" He said, "'Cause I wasn't in the car wash business, I was in the self-esteem business." Do you know the story at all? Tony tells
No.
it sometimes.
Yeah,
So
tell
he
it.
he realized that people feel a little bit better about themselves when their car is clean and it drives a little faster, it makes less noise and all this kind of stuff. So he realized he was in the self-esteem business. So the way he had his greeters greet the people, what they called the different treatments, he put like a license plate scanner in there, so he recognized them and had given them this elevated service. Being in the self-esteem business, they just happen to wash cars. Okay. So when I owned the brokerage business, after kind of figuring this out, I realized I was actually in the state management business, not the brokerage business. So me and my partner redid everything behind this. We didn't talk about this out. It still looked like a real estate brokerage, but we were in the business of putting our agents in a state of optimism over pessimism, or productivity over procrastination. We were like state managers of sorts. So in that in that vein, like understanding that the business that you're actually in is really, really important. At a restaurant, and I opened it before COVID. A year later, COVID hit, right? And it was like, "Bro, you're screwed." I'm like, "I would be screwed if I thought of myself as being in the restaurant business, but I'm not. I'm in the business of maybe making people feel better about themselves." It was a health food as medicine cafe. So I was like, "Well, grocery stores are open." So I went the next day, I bought coolers, prepackaged the food, and just stayed open the next day as a grocery store. I just prepackaged our
Mm.
food and sold it out of the cupboards because I wasn't gonna let COVID shut me down, right? Because I wasn't in the
That's
restaurant
awesome.
business.
Yeah, yeah.
So being clear about the business that you're in, I'm trying to answer your question and making sure people understand the thought process to get there. So clearly understanding the business that you're in would give you the answer to what parts that you start augmenting first. And
Alright,
so
so pause real quick, only
yeah,
because you brought it up, right? And I
uh,
pulled it up on my phone,
what do you got?
um, because I went through that business mastery seminar, and
Yeah.
he got to this part of it, and I was like, "Oh, let's move on." He dwelled on it for
Which part?
hours and hours, and finally, I figured it out, finally, and it shifted a few times over, but basically, what business am I in, right? I'm in the business of creating generational memories for families filled with love and laughter in a place called home while creating wealth in their sleep.
Okay, there you go.
That's that's what I did, you
That's the
know?
business that you're in.
Yeah.
And most people don't do that drill to be able to know what they should be spending their time on or what should they be augmenting first. So the answer to your question when you gave me your scenario, it would be similar to the hotel experience that if you walk into a brand new hotel and it's completely automated and perfectly frictionless, and do it on my app and it opens the door for me and I can check in, check out, and all that kind of stuff. And there's no personalization. It's just table stakes. But if I walk in the next hotel and all that same automation is done behind the scenes, but the person says, "Hey, Dino, I saw you got an umbrella in your hand. You want some, want some hot tea? Hey, I heard that there's actually some construction going on, so I moved your room to the other side of the." All this human stuff was still having all the efficiencies behind the scene. That's my answer. So all of the things that you should be working on with AI should be none of the consumer facing stuff first. It should be all in the processes, all in your own education. Like, how quickly can I get from my consumer, situation, go through my loan, options, come up with a plan for them, and then give them a thoughtful plan of return. Like all of that stuff behind the scenes. It would not be in your social media. It would not be in your client communication first. That can come second. But I would keep all of that as human as freaking possible while you're powered behind the scenes, whether it is in your back pocket, not in front of you.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Yeah, going back to the restaurant analogy, there's the front of the house and the back of the house, and nobody needs to see what's going on in the back of the house, but the front of the house should be flawless, right? And we have this opportunity right now, if you take it, to create a back of the house that can function and run. But if you don't use you and your personality and your abilities to actually have that human touch, you're going to fail because we're in an environment where the majority of these jokers think they don't have to talk to anybody anymore. I don't know about you guys, but I get so frustrated when I can't talk to somebody, when I have to talk to somebody, when I need to talk to somebody. When you need to and you can't, nothing's more frustrating. So don't fall into this. I got AI and virtual assistants for everything. It's fine. Have them in the back of the house and let everybody think that you're the most attentive person in the world to them, to your client, and you will win bigger than ever before.
It's the only way you can compete against the servicers that can trigger their notification. Oh, you pulled the credit? Okay, boom, they hit you with a lower rate and boom. And if they don't know you on anything else, they're gonna pick price.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yep.
it's a tough world. We have these aggregators that are doing this AI powered reach out, and you can't compete with them. Like, how many AI callers do you want to call? Like, you just can't spend enough there. So it has to
Yeah.
be the personalization at scale. It has to be focused there.
All right. So listen, I'm gonna cut it a little short because I can go on for probably at least another 2 hours with you. But I have two more questions just because I love asking these questions. What is your favorite book?
I would say as a business book, The Challenger Sale. I have never read a book, and I've read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of, like, this book isn't a sales theory, because most people that write a sales book, it's their sales theory. Like, I did it this way, and this is what I developed and whatnot. It's actually a study of types of personalities, and then a scientific study of breaking down, like, in a complex sales versus simple sales process, what were the personality types of the top quartile, second, third, and fourth? And then once you identify this personality type, then how do you actually become more like that personality type of sorts, right? So the challenger sale, it plays into how I word my marketing. It plays in the idea that we were talking about earlier, like going from Dino knows more to Dino knows me. The challenger sale methodology, instead of getting the customer to agree with you or disagree with you, those are forgettable and different experiences. But if they say, Dino, I've never thought about it that way before. Tell me more. That's a challenger sale mentality, and then you have them hooked because now they're buying you as the expert, not just wanting your best rate.
Awesome. You know, it's great because I ask this question all the time. I've read the majority of the books everybody says, but I
Yeah.
haven't read this one, so
I
I'm
I
excited about
think
it.
you'll love it. At least the first, like, 2/3 will just really be, like, perfect for what you're working on, like,
Okay.
positioning your brand, like, positioning your value proposition, talking to LOs, like, it'll be perfect for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. All right.
What
So
about you?
this
Do you have a favorite one for me, though? I wanna.
I'm sure you've read it, but it's still one of my favorites is Good to Great,
Oh, yeah.
Jim
Yeah, yeah.
Collins.
Yep,
I
yep,
I
yep.
just I love that one because you know, there's a lot of good places out there. There's a lot of good restaurants. There's a lot of good loan officers and realtors but but there's not a lot of great ones. And going back to Tony Robbins, the majority of the time you're this close to being great. you just you always everybody stops right before they get to that great. And that's where, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to live in the good. It's, it's great is better.
We're gonna
And
get
great
along just fine, by the way.
is so much more fulfilling, right? And not only that, but you can fill other people. We talked about it earlier, but loving people, right? Like you can love more people, you can fill more people, you can make a difference in the world if you play it great. You really can. So, last question, and I'll let you choose since you were a realtor at one point, but I'm always talking to loan officers, so I'm gonna let you choose if you want to be a loan officer or a realtor, but I'm gonna pick you up. I'm gonna drop you off somewhere in the United States that you don't know anybody. I'm gonna give you just enough money so that you can, have some shelter and buy food without being totally broke and decent clothes. But you don't have a ton of money to just go spend on growing your business. But you can't come home to visit your family or anybody you love until after you make $1 million. How are you going to make the first $1 million? In detail. Don't just give me like, random bullshit stuff. Like, I want to know some details.
If I'm in a brand new place, I'm establishing myself as a thought leader and a one to many. So I'm gonna go speak at every association, every council, women's council of realtors, every business alliance, every chamber of commerce. I'm going to speak as an expert, as a one to many in every single one of those first, because I want to meet the decision makers of the type of people that go in that community to those types of events. And the only way I can do that is if I'm a person worth speaking to. So I don't prospect anybody. I'd be like, okay, in order for me to be worthy of this guy, like, who do I need to become? So I'm worth them calling, I'm worth knowing to them, right? There's no prospecting in this. So I need to be worth knowing. So every decision maker that has money, that has the ability to move my needle on whatever we're talking about metrics for $1 million, I'm going to do that first. So I'm going to meet them face to face, look them whites of the eyes. I'm going to shake. I'm not going to do a social media campaign. I'm not going to go door knocking. I'm going to go get in the rooms and have enough value that I'm able to present one to many to the thought leaders in the space. That's what I'm going to do first off.
And I love that. How do you become worthy of to be able to present at events
You,
like that?
I think this is what I love AI for. Like I do something in the morning called 9 minutes of greatness. And I look for something, I spend 9 minutes because it's just like the little thing that I do for myself of learning a subtle new skill, another subtle soft skill. And if I'm just give any suggestions at all, like soft skills are the thing to learn right now. Like your influence skills, communication skills, soft skills, EQ skills, that's the thing to learn. So if I can make somebody just feel really good about themselves in my presence, they're gonna do business with me, frankly. And it's not the no like or trust thing. I actually don't believe that's an old way of like looking at it. Like people do business with people they don't know, like, or trust all the time, and the relationship comes a result of the good business dealings, not ahead of time. Right? We're a convenience, timing sort of like mentality too. You gotta be in the flow of the customer. If you're in the flow, you can represent, pitch, close, you're gonna get the deal, then you have a good relationship as a result of that. It doesn't come first a lot of times in this day and age.
I Is there a social media strategy to back you up when somebody starts checking you out?
I think so. I have a weird relationship with social media. Like I've had big accounts with 3, 4, 500,000 followers I've just killed before because it's like not interesting to me at that point. Yeah. So I built social media followings on different platforms before, I killed them, brought them back. Like it just to me, and social media has changed so much that it isn't social, it's interest. So you have to commoditize yourself to be worthy of being on social media anymore. It's not personality driven anymore. So the commoditization of myself feels gross. I typically don't do that just in general. However, however, I would not be posting on social media. I would be crawling, DMing, commenting on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
um I had a coach tell me, uh, so this is interesting, right? Because unless you are an influencer and have a following, and not just a big following, but a following where people are engaged, you're really not even seen by that many people.
mhm.
It just goes by the wayside, right? So you post and it fills up your grid and all this other stuff, and it's good. You got to have some of that stuff, but at the end of the day, it's like most people still aren't even seeing you. And how do you break through? Well, you can start spending money because it's what they want you to do, and then you'll break through a little bit more. But I thought this strategy was really cool. He said, pick 5 people that are influential in the space you want to be in, and stalk them every single day because those guys are posting every day, and comment on their stuff. Don't just like, but comment. And the immediate piece is, oh, so they'll notice you. And then it's like, no, no, they will, but that's not even what you're going after. But all the other people that you want to know who you are also following that person. And even though your posts won't be seen by them, your comments will, you know?
And
So I
you
thought that was a
described
great strategy.
you described arbitrage, and that's what I was doing with the speaking engagement, these things. Like anything that you can use arbitrage, brand arbitrage, audience arbitrage, anybody that's already acting as your middleman, that curated your people, that's a form of arbitrage. So I look for those like those are hacks to get to, or I should say shortcuts, not hacks. They're intelligent shortcuts to get to things. So leaning on somebody else's audience to know what's being talked about, comment in a thoughtful way is the best place to get clicks through for yeah, for sure. And with the challenger sale mentality, because the challenger sale mentality is not argumentative. It's a thoughtful, slight adjacent debate, right? Without offending anybody. So
Yeah.
it's a skill.
Well, dude, that was a great conversation. And even though you own a tech company, you're like the furthest thing away from a tech nerd.
Thanks. I don't know how to take that, but thank you. Yeah, no. It I walked into a room the other day and I had like a a beanie on or something like that, and we were talking about AI, and she goes, "Oh, yeah, that's right, you're the AI guy, around here." And I was like, "Yeah, I know I don't look like it right now." She goes, "No, you look exactly like it." I go, "Wait a minute, I don't know how to take I don't know what that even means." So, anyways, yeah, whatever that looks like.
Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate just the conversation. I thought it was great. And, I'm assuming just Huzi AI. I want everybody to go check you guys out. I think you got a great product, and I would love
Thank
to
you.
see your product be the catalyst to so many people's change of the way they do business, and just get back more time in your day too.
I don't normally personal promote something, but ericpost.ai is where I just put my AI manifesto, and I think people should read that. If you're in the business, it helps. It's describes everything I'm talking about, like personalization at scale and how to do it specifically. And it's a short read, but it's not like any business book. I have poetry in there. I've got short stories and narratives because I didn't want. It's a thought provoking book. It's not meant to be an instruction manual. So I think that should help people like really think through. That's why I hooked up with the gorilla the other day. 'Cause he read it. He's like, "Oh man, this is exactly what I'm thinking." So I think people will like it. If you, it's not mindset is the last competitive advantage. When it comes down to
Yeah,
it, it's
yeah,
that's the last competitive advantage. So
awesome. Well, thank you again. I hope you
great
have
pleasure.
a great rest of your day.
Thanks for having
And
me on.
guys, thank you so much for listening once again. Really appreciate it. And for those of you guys that are just starting to listen, we're here to empower, equip, and educate you in the way lending should be done. But we are expanding outside of lending just a little bit, just because now it's a more holistic approach to everything, right? So it's not just all about lending. Learn how to be well rounded. Learn how to use these tools that are out there. Absolutely learn how to use AI to your advantage, because it will help you grow your business. It'll help you be 10x better at managing your business, and it'll give you that time back with your family again, which is a lost art for a lot of people in our industry. So, love you guys. We will see you again soon, and thank you so much.